How do you feel about classical music? Like art, music is a language in itself that conveys thoughts and ideas that words alone cannot. Charlotte Mason recognized this and included musical appreciation in her curriculum as knowledge that was due to all children. Join us today and get inspired to begin your own musical education if you haven't already. Looking for a composition and literature course that is fully online and follows the Charlotte Mason method for the upper forms? It does exist. Find more information and check out the course offerings for the coming school year at livingliterature.net. Space is limited, so move swiftly to secure a spot for your student. Welcome to A Delectable Education, the podcast that spreads the feast of the Charlotte Mason method. I'm Emily Kaiser, and I'm here with
Nicole Williams
and Liz Cottrell.
Just as art communicates in a language without words, so music conveys ideas to us in a medium that is entirely its own. Charlotte Mason realized that music might give great joy and interest to the life of all people, and that just as children who are educated in Charlotte Mason's methods are given the greatest literature and art, so they should have the greatest music as well. The greatest classical music is an acquired taste to many of us, one that can be trained from a young age, however. And Nicole, can you tell us a little bit about what this looks like in a child's education, and maybe your own too?
Yeah. Well, I thought that our last episode was very easy, but this one I think is even easier for me to explain. Music appreciation started in Form 1, and it's the same all the way through with the addition of something later, but it is truly just listening to music. But the same way with artist study that we had one composer each term, and we listened to various pieces, or we looked at, now we're going to listen to various pieces of music from that same artist, and the same result that we are recognizing their style, maybe able to recognize a piece of music we haven't even heard before. So that continues on all the way through high school. But in high school, there is the addition of a music history book that would, again, just like with art history, pull all of that together, all that familiarity they have, and give every piece its place in history and tie that together.
Yeah. So this is a weekly lesson. Again, we do just 10 minutes once a week. In Charlotte Mason's day, they didn't have MP3 players, and phones that everyone carried around that could play the world's
so much
music.
Easier for us.
It is
to
so much.
do
They would
this.
have to literally have a person play, and later phonographs or whatever, would play recordings of. So they wouldn't necessarily do this in the middle of the morning lessons, but we can, and it's a wonderful way. But it doesn't have to just be confined to the morning lessons. They could absolutely be listening to the pieces that they're studying, or more than the ones that they're giving active listening to outside of school. So just as you said, forms 4 to 6, they add in that music history, and they had books on music theory and technique or whatever as well. That reading time, they had an additional 20 minutes a week set aside to read through those books slowly. And just like with art, their composer, especially in those upper years, really should tie to the historical time period that they're studying to give us a bigger picture of what life was like and the ideas that were happening at that time. So the individual lessons are very simple, just like picture study. Maybe a brief note about the composer, or a brief note about the piece, why it was written, or some distinctive thing, information easily got on the internet today. You might do that. And then we just have careful, attentive listening to the piece, or if it's a longer piece, we might just do a part like a movement of a concerto or a symphony or something like that. And then afterwards, they can describe what they heard, the images that they came to their mind, any patterns that they noticed. They might hum parts of it, the melody line, anything that made them think of. My kids also like to talk about the colors that they heard, maybe the dynamics, or as they get older, maybe they're studying in their own piano and they can actually pick out on techniques, or whatever musical instrument they're playing. They might have more to say, just, to bring into it, just as we all do as we go through our lessons. So, and just, that's it. That's our 10-minute lesson once a week. And again, is a lesson that fills the morning with delight, even if it's not every day. And it's good to not pack music and picture study on the same day. Like, spread those through the week. Give our brains a break and our bodies just a chance to relax and enjoy some beauty. Our objectives in our lesson is to introduce students to some great piece of music, and to increase their knowledge and love of music, and, introduce them to a specific composer each term, and to train their ears to listen carefully, which also increases their powers of attention. So if you want to build attention, composer study can help with that too. Our prep as teachers, I think the easiest thing to do is build a playlist, so you're not having to scramble and find a recording on YouTube or Spotify or wherever you want to do that. You might do a brief little bit of research about the composer or maybe the piece that you're going to look at. You may need a speaker to play it so all of your students can hear it well. And that is about it. We do have some resources to recommend to you that make this so much easier. When I first started, I didn't have any of these. They were not available yet. So it is much easier now. My favorite are the Tilbury Table composer study guides. I just print those digital guides off and keep it with the notes, but the digital is helpful because she has links to specific playlists and pieces of music that you can find on Amazon Music or YouTube. Simply Charlotte Mason also has packages that have an actual CD, if you prefer that, as well as a booklet. And I think they might have links to digital music as well in them. I forgot to look today, guys. I'm sorry. And then there is another resource by a fellow Charlotte Mason mom, Rihanna Goss, who did the Composer Study Companion. This is a book with multiple studies of different composers, but there are also digital versions, and again, that have digital playlists that make it easy for you to implement this lesson without a lot of extra work on your part. What objections or questions do you get?
Oh, I don't know classical music. How do I pick? Which composer do I pick? I'd say if you've heard of them before, it's probably a good idea. But I personally have been known to Google 17th century top 10 composers, and when you go to some place like YouTube, you don't have to know which piece to pick out. I mean, there are some that have millions of listens. That's probably a pretty good shot, but we can't love what we don't know. We have to be exposed to things, right, Nicole? Because she remembers, right?
I do. I don't know why, but composer study was way more intimidating to me than artist study. That didn't bother me at all, just looking at beautiful pictures. But I had no history of hearing classical music, and I was very intimidated by it. So you mentioned we didn't have resources like this early on, and my co-op did do this together, and there was a woman who told a story about it and had us listening for like the rain in a piece, and all of a sudden it came to life for me. And so I think using a resource like we've mentioned, if you aren't familiar with classical music, can really help you to start to hear things that, or hear the beauty in it that you maybe aren't naturally or
I love that the rain is what was the key for you.
Yeah.
I remember everyone in my liberal arts college had to take a musical appreciation course, and I had years of piano and kind of like, oh, classical music is boring, even though I was more familiar with it, having played a bunch of it, and there were a few pieces I liked. But we had to, our teacher, our professor in college made us purchase a CD, because this is early 2000s, right? This is still before digital music was a huge thing. We had to purchase a CD of one of the composers or pieces that he had introduced us to. And for me, I got this Richard Strauss symphony that is it's called the Alpen Symphony. It's a symphony of the Alps. And the piece that I loved that we had heard in class is Sunrise Over the Mountain. And it just is so vivid, knowing that. But he told us, like, this is what this piece is about. And then listening to it, hearing that, it just made it come alive.
Yeah.
And there's lots of free courses online of music appreciation. You can listen to lectures like, what is that series called? Great Courses.
The Great Courses. Yeah.
Things like that. And again, you're going to want to pick some artists that are composers that are in your historic time period.
Unless you have very young children, that's not as important, right?
Right. Just like with picture study
Mm-hmm.
or poetry or whatever. Form 1 is just introducing to a lot of different flavors of things.
Yeah.
And I do recommend, I kind of miss the old CD days in a way. But I mean, today with Alexa and all of that, it's just not hard. If you're studying Haydn, you can, during dinner, have it on just a lot of times. And children really, all my grandchildren have favorite composer pieces, and they just love it. So
that's something that
they
we
will
still do.
attach to a certain song, a certain movement, a certain dance or whatever that they've heard. It will really surprise you. And I just also think we need to recognize that music is soul language, and every human society has had some form of music. And this is some of the best music ever written. Anyway.
In our culture.
In
Yeah.
our
And again,
culture,
this is a lesson that everybody can do, this 10-minute listening. You know, even if your older students are having another time during the week that they read, they can do it all together.
It's also super relaxing. If they've just had a stressful math lesson, you just have everyone close their eyes and listen. And like Emily said, you know, sometimes they'll even say, oh, this reminds me of the color purple or whatever.
One thing that our family does is we have like the favorite dinner that they like at the time, and then a special dessert at the end, like our last day of exams. And I always buy a CD of our composer that has many of the pieces. I try to get as many as possible that we've listened to, because we do have a CD player. I like them to be able to put in music without
getting online
on a screen. Yeah. So we've always had a CD player in our house, and they will still get out in the Hall of the Mountain King and dance around the house to the Grieg Peer Gynt suite and
I have discovered
things.
a lot of composers that I didn't know, even though I was exposed to classical music and took piano and all that kind of thing. You know, I remember my first grader listening to Vaughan Williams, and he just adored it. I mean, he was a really difficult child and had ADHD, and when he turned that on, he became a different person. So you may discover some really great benefits that you aren't even thinking about right now.
It's so true.
But you don't need to know much about it. It really is training the ear, attuning the ear to listen to many different things. And and it's so great to, you know, do a just like you might go to a museum to see artists that you've been studying, to actually go to the symphony. It's great training for your children too.
Yeah.
One of the important aspects of this is the formation of musical taste. And I think somebody like me who had no history of it, I didn't have a taste for it. I do now, but I didn't. And I was homeschooling some older children who were new to Charlotte Mason, my siblings, and they didn't have a taste for it either. And I would say just keeping yourself open to, like, we're just going to do this, and reading a little bit of that. One of the resources we talked about, I think, helps get everybody's attention, but just trying to keep a good attitude yourself as you do this. It's only 10 minutes, and it will take, you will get hooked on somebody and really learn to appreciate and enjoy. Yes. Yeah. Just give yourself a minute and give the kids a minute if they are new to this. And it really will change your musical tastes and broaden.
And one day you'll be listening to something and all of a sudden you'll just have tears and you don't even know why. And that's what I mean, is speaking to something inside that, it's not like any other kind of language.
Yeah. Well, we'll be right back.
How do you narrate music? How do you connect with classical music using more than just imagination? How do you teach musical ideas through composer study if you aren't even musical? This is what I wondered when I started using Miss Mason's philosophy 15 years ago. And it's what led me to research her designs for composer study and create Tilbury Table Composer Study Guides. These downloadable guides are complete with everything you need for a term's worth of well-rounded composer study lessons. Each guide contains a biography, historical and musical information, narration suggestions, as well as links and QR codes to each piece of music. Tilbury Table Composer Study Guides are excellent for all forms and are designed so you can use as much or as little to fit your family's needs. Let me help you prepare your feast. Grab the guide you need, ready to serve, from my table to yours at tilburytable.etsy.com.
Well, we've reached the end of this season of a Delectable Education podcast. We will be back next week for one of our favorite traditions here at ADE, the end of year reflections. We hope you'll join us for a look back at the past year before we turn our gaze to what lies ahead. If you benefited from this conversation, please like and subscribe. We hope our discussion serves to equip and encourage you as we seek to explain the Charlotte Mason method. You can find the show notes in the video description or by visiting adelectableeducation.com/episodes. There, you'll find the links and quotes we mentioned in today's episode. We are so grateful for our loyal Patreon supporters who help make this show possible. If you'd like to partner with us in our work here at A Delectable Education, you can join our Patreon community and receive exclusive and early content as our thank you for your monthly support. Find out more at patreon.com/adelectableeducation. Thank you for joining us today. We'll see you next time.